Stephen Curry on the Warriors bench instantly set the internet on fire. But what happened after the final buzzer is what really has people talking. Following the Warriors' loss at Chase Center, Stephen Curry reportedly confronted Anthony Edwards after the tense moment during the game, turning an already heated matchup into something even bigger. Here's what went down between Steph Curry and Anthony Edwards. After the Warriors' tough loss on Friday night, March 13, 2026, the Minnesota Timberwolves visited the Golden State Warriors at Chase Center in San Francisco. Two teams in different places this season, but both fighting for something in the Western Conference. The Timberwolves came in at 40-26, having slipped to sixth place in the West after dropping 3 straight games. The Warriors sat at 32-33, having fallen under 500 for the first time in nearly 3 months, mired in 9th place in a crowded conference. Stephen Curry was not on the court. Curry hasn't played since January 30th because of a right knee issue. The Warriors had ruled him out for at least 10 more days, meaning this game against the Timberwolves was one he'd watch from the bench. Doctors for the Warriors have described the injury as runner's knee. This was now his 16th consecutive game missed. And it wasn't just Curry. Jimmy Butler is set to miss the remainder of the season while recovering from a torn ACL. Golden State lost big man Al Horford for the night in the first quarter because of right calf tightness. Then Seth Curry exited in the second half with tightness in his left inner thigh. It marked the 7th time this season Golden State was without the trio of Jimmy Butler, Curry, and Green. The Warriors were a shell of what they wanted to be. On the other side, there was a question about Anthony Edwards even playing. Before the game, the Timberwolves listed all-star guard Anthony Edwards as questionable with right knee soreness. This was a new issue for Edwards, and it remains unclear when he first felt the discomfort, though it likely surfaced during the team's Friday shoot-around. But Edwards played, and he did what Anthony Edwards does. Anthony Edwards scored 42 points, and the Minnesota Timberwolves held off the injury-plagued Golden State Warriors 127-117 on Friday night. Edwards shot 13 for 22, made all 12 of his free throws, and also had 8 rebounds and 5 assists. Rudy Gobert contributed 18 points and 9 rebounds. In what Coach Chris Finch considered a must-win game for the Warriors, the loss stung. The Warriors lost their 4th straight, 4th in a row at home, and 6th of 7. They dropped to 9-18 without Curry overall this season, and 5-11 during his recent stretch out. And then the moment happened. According to Hater Report on X, Anthony Edwards drained a three-pointer and stared down Steph Curry on the bench. The post went viral. The clip of Curry's reaction on the bench spread across social media. People had their takes ready. Was this disrespect? Was this the next generation coming for the throne? Was Curry angry? To understand the answer, you have to understand what these two mean to each other.
In Game 4 of that series, Edwards was racing up and down the court on his way to 30 points in the Timberwolves' 117-106 victory, while Curry once again sat on the Warriors' bench watching it go down. At one point, the two men got into a playful exchange after Edwards sank one of the 6 three-pointers. Edwards explained the exchange after the game. He said Curry told him after a missed shot that he wasn't going to make it because he was too open. Edwards responded by telling him he learned from the best. "I learned that from you this summer," is what Edwards said, he told Curry, referencing their time together at the Paris Olympics. And Edwards didn't just talk trash, he also expressed respect. "Trust me, I wish he could be out there to play against him, no matter how it goes," Edwards said. He called Curry the greatest shooter of all time. He said he would love to compete against him, but acknowledged the injury. "I would definitely love to compete against him, but he got hurt, unfortunately," Edwards said. That's the context. That is the dynamic between these two players. One is the established legend. The other is the rising star who idolizes the legend, but isn't afraid to compete against him. And the exchanges between them on the court, near the bench after games, have always carried that combination of respect and competition. So when Edwards hit that three-pointer on Friday night and looked at Curry on the bench, it's worth asking, was this a confrontation, or was this just more of the same? the ongoing chapter in one of the NBA's most compelling passing of the torch dynamics. There's also the matter of Steph Curry's face in that clip. People saw his reaction and ran with it, but what was Curry actually feeling? A man sitting on the bench on the eve of his 38th birthday, watching a 23-year-old go off against his depleted team. Some people looked at Curry's expression and saw frustration. Others saw something closer to resignation or even recognition. To understand the full weight of what happened Friday night, you have to look at what the Warriors have become without Stephen Curry this season. Because this isn't just about one game or one stare-down. It's about a franchise unraveling in real time. In 39 games this season, the two-time league MVP has averaged 27.2 points per game, his highest mark since the 2022-23 season. When Curry plays, the Warriors are a competitive team. When he doesn't, the numbers tell a different story. Since his injury, Golden State has gone 5-10, struggling to maintain consistency without the spacing and playmaking Curry provides. After Friday night's loss, that record got worse. They dropped to 9-18 without Curry overall this season. 9 wins and 18 losses. That's a team that can't function without its engine. The losses haven't all been to good teams either. Before Minnesota came to town, the Warriors had lost 3 straight games, including an embarrassing 130-124 home loss to the lottery-bound Chicago Bulls. They lost to the Utah Jazz before that. The short-handed Warriors followed up Monday's road loss to the Utah Jazz with a 131-124 overtime defeat to the visiting Chicago Bulls on Tuesday. Coach Steve Kerr called them both very winnable games. Pat Spencer,
Those aren't just star numbers, those are MVP-caliber numbers. His three-point shooting in particular has reached a level that puts him in direct conversation with Curry's legacy. Edwards has logged a league-best 47 games of at least 5 made threes since the start of last season, edging past Curry, who has 44. That stat alone tells you about the volume and consistency of Edwards' shooting. He's not just taking threes, he's making them at a rate that even Curry would acknowledge. And Edwards knows what Curry's records mean. In a conversation with The Standard, Edwards addressed the all-time three-point record. "I think I'm going to catch him," Edwards said. But he's also aware of how improbable Curry's single-season record of 402 threes truly is. "I don't think nobody wants to beat Steph's records, man. It's Steph Curry," Edwards said. He acknowledged that no one is thinking about getting 400 threes in a season besides Steph Curry himself. The fact that Edwards became such an excellent three-point shooter is a developmental miracle in itself. The knock on him coming out of Georgia was that his jumper lagged behind his other special tools, and now he's the one draining threes over defenders and staring down the man who made that shot the most dangerous weapon in basketball history. Edwards has also earned the nickname Legend Killer for his playoff performances. He earned that name after the Wolves eliminated the Phoenix Suns' Kevin Durant and Denver Nuggets star Nikola Jokic in the playoffs last season. He added to that resume in the 2025 playoffs when he and his teammates knocked LeBron James, Luka Doncic, and the Lakers out of the postseason. Then, the Wolves went through the Warriors in that same 2025 postseason, with Edwards putting up 30 points in the clinching Game 4 while Curry watched from the sideline. His 42-point performance on Friday night was another statement. Edwards was elite, scoring 42 points to go with 8 boards and 5 assists. The Timberwolves dominated stretches of the second quarter with strong intensity and offensive efficiency, extending the lead. The Warriors tried to come back, they mounted a rally, but unlike Utah and Chicago, the visiting and contending Minnesota Timberwolves established themselves early, withstood a spirited Golden State rally, and handed the Warriors a 127-117 loss. The stare-down after the three-pointer, then, wasn't some act of war, it was more like a declaration. Edwards isn't trying to tear Curry down, he's trying to build himself up to that level. And part of getting there is competing, even when the other man is on the bench in street clothes. Every great player has moments where they let the world know who they are. Edwards is in that phase of his career. The stare-down at Curry wasn't about disrespect, it was about Edwards showing the basketball world that the next era is already here.
The line between disrespect and admiration is thin in the NBA, but the history between these two men suggests this falls firmly on the side of admiration mixed with competition. Edwards has been consistent about how he views Curry. He's the greatest shooter ever. Edwards wants to be in that conversation one day, and the way he's going, he might get there. So where does this leave both men going forward? For Stephen Curry, the immediate future is about getting healthy. NBA insider Matt Steinmetz believes Golden State will rest Stephen Curry through mid to late March or even early April before bringing him back. The goal is to keep their playoff spot within reach from the 8th seed while prioritizing Curry's recovery. Golden State plans to reevaluate Curry again in about 10 days, suggesting his return may still be some time away. The Warriors face a difficult stretch ahead. After facing the Timberwolves, the Warriors embark on a 4-game road trip against the New York Knicks, Washington Wizards, Boston Celtics, and Detroit Pistons. Those games could push Curry's absence closer to 20 games if he remains sidelined until the next medical update. With the regular season entering its final stretch, Golden State has 17 games remaining, making every contest critical in the crowded Western Conference playoff race.
The Warriors are play-in tournament eligible while in 9th place in the West. Curry's value has never been in question. Even off the court, his legacy remains intact. A 2024-25 Panini National Treasures Curry Logan Auto 1 sold for $40,697 at Golden Auctions. People are investing 7 figures in Curry memorabilia while he's sitting on the bench. That tells you everything about how the world views his place in basketball history. The high price reflects that Curry is a premier investment even as he nears the end of his career. But on the court, the math is working against Golden State. Per StatMuse's data, Golden State has allowed 117.7 points per game and shot a subpar 42.1% from the field during their losing stretch. They're bleeding defensively and offensively. Without Curry, their three-point shooting drops to a 36.1% conversion rate for the season. With Curry, the Warriors are a top 10 offense. Without him, they're a team that loses to the Jazz and Bulls. For Anthony Edwards and the Timberwolves, this win was about ending their own skid. The Timberwolves had lost 3 in a row by an average of 22 points. Minnesota struggled on the defensive end in a 153-128 road loss to the Los Angeles Clippers on Wednesday, where Kawhi Leonard scored 45 points. Coach Finch said it himself before the game, "We've got to regroup, we've got to play both sides of the floor." They regrouped. Edwards carried them. The Timberwolves head to Oklahoma City on Sunday to conclude a 4-game road stretch. That's a game against the best team in the West. That will be the real test of whether the Wolves have found their footing again. But for one night, Edwards reminded everyone why he's in the conversation as one of the top 5 players in the NBA. As for the confrontation that the internet has been buzzing about, the stare down, the viral clip, the reaction on Curry's face, here's what we know. Curry and Edwards have a history of exchanges during games. Those exchanges have always been a mix of trash talk and mutual respect. Nothing from Friday night suggests anything different. Edwards hit a 3, he looked at the bench, Curry had a reaction. That's basketball. That's competition. That's 2 competitors who happen to share a bond built on the court and strengthened at the Olympics. The real confrontation isn't between Curry and Edwards, it's between Curry and time. A 37-year-old man turning 38 the day after watching a 23-year-old score 42 on his team, dealing with a knee injury that has no firm return date. Curry has already cemented his place in history. He holds the career record of 4,233 pointers. He has 4 championships. He has 2 MVPs. He changed how basketball is played. None of that changes because Edwards stared at him on a Friday night in March. But what that moment did capture is something real, the passing of time. Curry sitting on the bench, Edwards standing on the court. One man's twilight season overlapping with another man's prime. That's the story, not a confrontation, not beef, not disrespect, just the game of basketball doing what it has always done, making room for the next one in line while the legend watches from the sideline.
Edwards himself said it after the 2025 playoffs. He called Curry the greatest shooter of all time. He said he wished Curry was healthy to compete against, and then he went out and played the way Curry taught him to play, with confidence, with range, and without hesitation. That's not a confrontation. That's a tribute in the form of competition. So the next time you see a clip of Edwards hitting a shot and looking at Curry, remember the full picture. Remember the Under Armour shoes in 8th grade. Remember the camp. Remember Paris. Remember the Olympics gold medal. Remember the conversations on the bench during playoff games. Remember that Edwards has never once spoken about Curry with anything other than deep respect. And remember that Curry has always carried himself with grace, even when watching from the sidelines while his team loses. The Warriors will need Curry back if they want to salvage this season. The Timberwolves will need Edwards to keep playing at this level if they want to make a run in the playoffs. And the NBA will continue to have these moments where the old guard and the new guard cross paths, exchange looks, and remind us all that this game is as much about legacy as it is about wins and losses. That's what happened on Friday night. Not a confrontation, a continuation.